Grammy and Emmy award-winning music producer and artist Skip Martin shares his thoughts on creating music with Suno AI and what it means for the future of the music game. So is it something that we should all be using and we're simply resisting change? Or does he see something about it a lot of us are actually missing? Make sure you stay tuned to the very end of the video because there's lots of useful insights that you're gonna need as the musical landscape changes. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Hey friends and family, how you doing out there? This is Skip Martin. I am a Grammy and Emmy award-winning artist, music producer, and songwriter. And I want to talk a little bit about Suno right now and how I feel about Suno. You know, there's a lot of drag going around about, well, it's not real music and it's not this or that. Well, that's not so because it's a tool. It just doesn't work for people that don't have talent enough to actually give it the right songs or give it completed songs and that kind of stuff. As a songwriter and a producer, I love Suno because I've written over almost 700 songs. And when I take a song that I've already constructed and I give it to Suno, and Suno, I give it the right directives. You know, I tell it, oh, I want it to have this kind of feel to it. I want it to have that kind of feel to it. I want it to be a dance rhythm. I want it to be in 120 beats per minute, and all of those different directives that somebody that knows how to write songs can tell the AI intelligence, this is the kind of feel I want. And that's when you get your quality music. Not when you go to Suno and say, write me a song based on Mary Had a Little Lamb, because it's just going to give you some lame stuff. But if you give it powerful stuff that you have produced and put together and written, and give as much ideas that you already have constructed. Don't leave it up to Suno or AI to give you the song, because the one thing that Suno doesn't have that people have is people have souls.
You know, that's an interesting point. I can definitely see how someone like Skip can find so many uses for platforms like Suno and other similar tools like it, because it's almost like a band in a box. You can come up with all different types of ideas, come up with different types of references. You can put a song that you've created already and change it into an entirely different genre, which is very, very interesting because, you know, like they say, a well-written song can be translated in multiple genres, and it looks like he's been able to implement it and use it in a way really to his liking. So I will say, from a purely creative standpoint, that definitely makes sense, but there still is the human interaction element that, you know, is definitely going to be lost in the process, as opposed to hiring different bands and going to different studios and, you know, possibly networking and running into other people. Now we have the opportunity to do it on platforms like Suno. So there's the purely creative side. That's a positive. But from my perspective, I'm seeing the negative side in the less people are interacting with each other. But it's just my perspective. Let's get back into the video.
And so if you have a soul and you know how to use, everybody's got a soul. So if you know how to use music and construct it, that soul element is going to be added into the data that Suno processes. And it's going to give you two different versions of that song that you have created. And it'll probably give you some other ideas that you didn't even think about. So if any of you out there have seen that movie, Harlem Nights, where the guy is talking to his wife, said, baby, put your wife on the phone, put your mama on the phone. Yeah, baby, I ain't never coming home. Well, that's how I feel about Suno, because I'm not never going back to spending weeks and months and years just writing and constructing a song when I have so many songs constructed already. And I'm going to ask Suno to give me another version of this that I've already done. And I want you to make it like this, like that, and like this. I'm sold on Suno, and I'm sure you will too. As a authentic producer and songwriter, he gets my stamp of approval. Suno's the shit.
All right. And, you know, once again, as a purely creative tool and a process, I can definitely see that, you know, you're compressing the time it takes to get certain results, and you could just prompt it. So now, instead of, like he even mentioned, we shared the same thoughts, you know, instead of taking weeks and months to actually get certain songs done. And if you guys have ever done anything in sync like I have, and it's a lot of revisions and a lot of hurry up and wait, but now you could just execute things so quickly that it's like, you know, it's already done. You don't have to keep waiting. And speaking of sync, I've done another reaction video to a popular engineer on here. The name slips my mind. And he spoke about how different jingle houses are closing down and using AI to create some of the stock music. And he mentioned it in the clip that I actually reacted to. So it's just an interesting balance. It's like the more optimized the creative tool is, the more it's negatively impacting, groups of people. But let's go ahead and get back into the video.
People are saying that Suno is taking the jobs of musicians. And I totally disagree because if you're a real musician, then you can go and you can play music anywhere. But if you don't have talent, you can't go anywhere and play music because people don't want to hear you if you don't have talent. So that talent has got to be transformed into an interpretation, and you give that to Suno, and it'll help to make and increase what it is that artist has, and not just create it from scratch with nothing. You have to start with something. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Okay. Suno is also an app that can generate ideas for global music interpretations. That means wherever you're coming from, wherever you live, if you're in India and they got, and it'll give you the feels of those things because the data and the sounds and the drums and the vocals, all of that stuff is all data. You can be obtained all the time. And Suno is a great app to pick up some of those data. So it doesn't matter where you were, if you're in Japan, if you're in Russia, if you're in Germany, if you're in London, if you're in Australia, wherever you are and whatever your culture is, as long as you can give and feed Suno your idea. And it's best to have a completed idea to give Suno versus having Suno come up with ideas, because Suno doesn't come up with the ideas. It'll just enhance what you have given it.
All right, so another interesting point, you feed Suno different ideas. You can tap into different international markets. Once again, you can translate and, reinterpret music. Let's just say you make country music. You can reinterpret that into a pop song. You can reinterpret that into a reggae song and tap into different markets as well. So it's once again, another use case for Suno. And another thing about that is I remember reacting to a video from Top Music Attorney where she mentioned that Suno actually indemnifies themselves when it comes to copyright issues. So let's say one person in, like you mentioned, London fed Suno some music, and then someone in, let's just say, Texas got some of that output from Suno and then used that in a new composition, and that's actually the other person in, London's copyrighted material that they fed into Suno. And if there's an issue with the original creator stating that, hey, you're using my original work, I didn't give you permission to use it, this is my copyrighted material, then Suno's gonna, put their hands up and say, hey, you two dish it out. This is not our responsibility. It's up to you two to work it out. So let's go ahead and get back.
All right, now let's talk about this Suno generated music. And there are some people that are saying that it lacks talent or it lacks emotion or it lacks this and that. And that's not true. If you have the talent and you have emotions and that's what you convey to Suno, you're going to get more of that. But if you start with an empty bowl or an empty plate, well, that's what you're going to get as well. That's how Suno works. You can't give it something from nothing. You have to have some soul and some feel and some structure and all of that stuff. And then you give that to Suno, and it makes your task much more powerful. And it'll give you other ideas, but you can't start it from nothing. You have to have something from the get-go.
Yeah, I think that, that really kind of comes from like the earlier versions of Suno when people say the music really doesn't have soul and it sounds fake and stuff like that. Man, honestly, I've tested it out and it's guys, it's starting to get up there, man. So if you heard it in the past, maybe even a few months ago, like the earlier versions of Suno, and then now if you go and check back now today, I'm telling you, you're gonna notice a difference. Like, wow, that actually sounds really good. I tested it out and I had like some strings and I just wanted to hear what it sound like. Man, it sounded pretty good. So we'll see like a year from now, a year and a half from now, just how possibly indistinguishable is going to be between real authentic human made music. It's going to get there at a certain point, guys. So, just be prepared for it. But let's get back into the video.
It's helping musicians do their job better. And that's why I like it. On another note, with Suno, the data says that 97% of the public can't even tell if something has been played by a Suno version of a particular song, especially when you start with something that's got soul and good content and structure. And they're listening to it. It sounds just an authentic bass player, it's an authentic drummer, it's an authentic singer, it's authentic horns, it's authentic, all of those things. It's just a data replacement. And it's getting the data from the world data, the global data of all music. So just give it your ideas. It's the new music calculator.
That's another thing when it comes to a lot of these discussions around Suno and generative AI. A lot of us are in our music creator, music producer bubbles, musician bubbles, where we all kind of hang out with people who are somewhat similar. If you're a producer, you probably know other producers, and you guys could probably pick up different things sonically. But just a normal, everyday, average person who goes to work, regular 9 to 5 job, and just listens to music on the radio, or maybe even a couple of different Spotify songs, their ears just tend to not be just that extra sharp. I can hear like real strange, phasey sounds sometimes in AI vocals, and sometimes the vocal will turn from one tone to another, which of course I'm pretty sure Suno has improved on now at this point. But those are the different things that just, once again, the everyday person, everyday consumer really likely can't pick up on. No, it's just something to keep in mind as we move forward, guys. But let's get back into the video.
As it stands right now, you can spend 6 weeks, 2 months, uh, 6 months creating a song. Put the song together, you put it out on Spotify or any of the other digital platforms, and you're going to get 0.0025 cents a play or a spin, which would take you more than 5 million spins to get $1,000, right? So, but on Suno, they're going to help to market it with you and what have you. You're going to do video clips. And then the monetization is actually better than any of the other digital platforms for you. You're going to earn more through Suno than you would through Spotify, Apple Play Music, YouTube, and all those other platforms. It's just constructed to service and help the musicians create quality music from quality ideas and their quality input. And you can make some dollars.
That's actually new to me. I never really looked into any type of Suno monetization or Suno promotional type of tools. So, guys, that's new to me. If you guys have heard anything about that, definitely educate me and educate the rest of the viewers in the chat. Let us know, what are some of the Suno monetization options? Have you gave it a try? What do you think about it so far? Did it help you promote your song at all? I know I've produced songs for some independent artists, and I looked at my TuneCore and I'm like, man, it's just like we got some decent plays, but the money the money really isn't there. Streaming is pretty tough, guys. But let's get back into the video.
All right. So there are people that are saying that AI music is not real music. And there's always going to be the naysayers. Matter of fact, there was the naysayers that when we came out with the telephone, people said, no, I'd rather go over there and talk to so and so. I'm not going to talk to a box. Well, that's the same primitive type ideas when people say things like that, because there's really value in this tool to make music, and it is here to stay. It's the age of tomorrow is today. So I'm gung ho. I'm all in because it's changed the process, what it takes to make it, and the mat music turns out phenomenal when you know the process. Key point.
All right. So the resistance to technological changes, I think pretty much all of us have been guilty of it at one point or another. Generative AI just has been such a shock to the system, how quickly it's grown and how quickly it's become prevalent in our society already. I find myself using AI in some capacity, as far as utilities, organization, things like that, content. I use it essentially every day for those type of tools. So I think it's, like you mentioned, it's somewhat inevitable for it to just become more and more used in society. Let's go ahead and get back into the video.
With Suno, I've been able to make 10 times to 50 times the amount of tracks in shorter period of time. When I used to make tracks, it would take me months and weeks to do all of the different parts, to do all the different sections, to record it, to this and that, so forth. When I can come in with Suno, take a song that's already done, and it'll give me the stems of all the tracks that I played, then I can adjust and manipulate it like I would a calculator or a Mac computer or anything else. It is ideal, and it cuts down the time it takes to create and process and mix. It cuts it to a fraction of the time, and time is more valuable than money. I love this Suno. It works for me, and I'm proud of it. For those of you that are naysayers out there, that's all right. Watch my smoke, because I'm going to keep it going. I'm a Grammy and an Emmy award-winning artist, Skip Martin, and I am a fan, and I produce music using Suno as well as my own wisdom and knowledge of 55 years. So look forward to seeing you guys out there, and you want to come visit me on Suno, come at Skip Martin Music. All right.
Skip here has me thinking, when I was a kid, really like when I was around a teenager, one thing that would happen to me is as I would go to sleep, like my mind would just generate different song concepts and like different total arrangements. So I would have like vocals, I would have musical elements all mapped out in my mind, but I never really had a way of expressing it. I played the trumpet for a little bit. I played the violin for a little bit, but I never had the actual skill set, at that age to just create total, arrangements like that. And I, as a producer, I do a lot of hip hop and R&B. So I did enjoy sampling. And it's like, if I had access to a tool like Suno, could I just hum into it and, create the different melodies with my voice and then put it all together and just create these great elaborate, instrumentals. And now they're just gone into the universe. So, and I want to co-sign a point that he made as far as it accelerating talented people's talent more, and as he mentioned, it's making him more efficient. But there's still other ethical issues that I personally have with AI, could just be my own hangups, but time will tell. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with some of Skip's points? Do you agree with some of my points? Do you disagree? What are your overall thoughts on using Suno, especially from such an esteemed musical veteran sharing his thoughts and the fact that he has fallen in love with this so much? Let us know what you think in the comments. I'll be glad to check it out. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit like and subscribe. My name is Desmond A, and I'll be back with more great videos. Peace. Wait, before you go, make sure you go to DesmondASounds.com, where you can get free FL Studio Patcher plugins, free loops, free guides, everything you need to level up your music production. Once again, go to DesmondASounds.com or click the link in the description. Go there now and totally transform your music production.